welcome to the Movies Past and Present podcast. It's April 25th, 2019, and this is episode 19. I'm your host, Stanford Clark, and I'm podcasting from the crossroads of the West in beautiful Salt Lake City, Utah. Just like my blog, moviespastandpresent.com, I'll be providing recommendations, commentary, and reviews about current and classic cinema. Thanks for tuning in, and let's get started. New in theaters this week is Avengers ENDGAME. This is from Marvel Studios. This film is the sequel to last year's Avengers Infinity War, and this film is going to be big. I think as we all know. I had a chance to see Avengers ENDGAME a couple of days ago at a press screening, and so I'm actually going to be giving my review. I've put a spoiler-free review on my blog, which I'll have a link to in the podcast notes. But also, please know that in this review I'm doing on the podcast, I'm going to be giving some minor spoilers. I promise I'll keep the big reveals. I won't say anything about the big reveals, but please know that I will be giving some spoilers. So if you want to go into the movie spoiler-free, please come back later. Tune in later. So, Avengers ENDGAME, as you know, and is really, not only is it a follow-up to Avengers Infinity War, but it's really a big culmination of all 21, if you can believe it. There's been 21 films in this current round of stories from Marvel Studios. So, Marvel Studios is Marvel Comics in-house movie studio. They launched with their first film, which was in 2008, was Iron Man, and they now have made 21 films. The most recent film was Captain Marvel, which came out last month. But these 21 films have all had a bit of a thread in them leading up to, of course, these Avengers stories where everybody comes together. And they have been battling this big bad dude from outer space called Thanos. Thanos has been collecting 6 gems, which are referred to as Infinity Stones, and then he places them in this gauntlet. They are this Infinity Gauntlet, which it's named, which is this metal glove. And if he gets all of the stones, it provides him with some major power. And what Thanos wants to do is he feels that the universe is overpopulated, and so he uses his power that he gets from the 6 Infinity Stones to cut the universe's population by half. And he does it just with with that inevitable snap of his finger, and that's where we were left as the cliffhanger from Avengers Infinity War last year, which Thanos has snapped his finger, and half the world's population is gone, including many of our beloved superheroes from this Marvel Cinematic Universe, which they've created. So, the producer at Marvel, who runs Marvel Studios, his name is Kevin Feige, and I tell you, I think Kevin Feige and his team have really been on their game and done a masterful job of not only creating a series of really entertaining films overall. I mean, there have been a few misses in these 21 films, but overall the films have been surprisingly good and high quality. And this has done a great job in storytelling and bringing it to this final film. So Avengers ENDGAME is really, it's interesting because it's a very epic film in that it has a big job. It's got to wrap up not only what happened in Avengers Infinity War, which was pretty major, but also it serves as a wrap up for this current storyline, which has been interwoven between these 21 films. Again, starting with 2008's Iron Man and ending with 2019's Captain Marvel. I've got a list of all 21 of these films on my review of my spoiler-free review on my blog of Avengers Endgame, along with links to their Rotten Tomato pages if you want to learn more, or let's just see all the films listed. But it's everything from Iron Man to the Thor films and the Captain America films, Guardians of the Galaxy, Doctor Strange, and also Spider-Man has been brought back into the Avengers fold. He's first appeared in Captain America: Civil War, but also had his own film, Spider-Man: Homecoming, in 2017. But anyway, and then an Ant-Man, etc. So this story in Avengers Endgame really has a lot. There's a lot on its shoulders, and I got to tell you, I really think that it delivered. It could have gone in multiple directions. I feel like the team put together a film that's going to be beloved by fans of Marvel Studios, and fans really of all different levels. So I think the real hardcore fan is going to be happy, and then perhaps the more casual fan too, I think, is also going to really enjoy the ride. The film has really everybody's back. All the same actors are back, and of course some of them are missing initially because with Thanos' snap, they many of our superheroes vanished. So that's really where the film begins, is how those people who made it through, who survived the snap, how they're dealing with the aftermath of that, and really just the sadness and the horror of it all. And the Avengers know that the remaining Avengers know that they have got to find Thanos and somehow make this right. And really, the tagline is whatever it takes. And they really go they go for it, and and with whatever it takes, that they are able to put together a really interesting plan. So here's where I get into a little bit of the spoilers. The plan that they come up with. So I guess it's important to know the key players that are still around. And again, these are all played by the same actors. But we've got Iron Man, Captain America, Thor, Black Widow, Hulk, Hawkeye, and then a few. So that we've got the 6 original Avengers. Those 6. Then Avengers in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Then we've also got War Machine, Rocket, the talking raccoon from the Guardians of the Galaxy films, Nebula, who is Thanos' daughter, Ant-Man, and also we've got the new addition of Captain Marvel, who, as we saw at the end of Captain Marvel last month, responds to Nick Fury's paging of her that happened just before he was getting vaporized in Avengers Infinity War. So we've got assembled a pretty interesting and a pretty capable team to try to figure out what they need to do to find Thanos and to make the universe right again. So one of the things they decide to do, and it's courtesy really of Ant-Man, is to go into the quantum realm, but to time travel. And so they're thinking if they can go back in time and go back to the points where, where the Infinity Stones were taken, or when when the Infinity Stones were in various places that they knew of, then they could stop these events from happening. So it really turns into this incredibly cool time travel movie, and all these different characters get dispersed to different places, and so they make some references about the Back to the Future films in this, and it's really like the Avengers meets Back to the Future, and I mean that in the best sense, like the original Back to the Future, which was just in my mind just a terrific film. So it's super satisfying because they go back in time, and they basically are going back into a lot of these different movies that we know and enjoy, these 21 movies that have been part of this Marvel Cinematic Universe iteration that we're in. So it makes it really fun. They brought in lots of fun surprises with the different actors and the different scenarios that they go into, and I love time travel movies anyway when they're done right, and this one is beyond. It's just really done incredibly well. Kudos to directors Joe and Anthony Russo, aka the Russo brothers. They've been part of this Marvel Cinematic Universe for a while. They directed a couple of the Captain America films, and then they also directed Avengers: Infinity War. They filmed both these Infinity War and Endgame at the same time. In fact, when these films were originally announced, they were called Infinity War Part 1 and Infinity War Part 2. They decided to change that, and which I think was actually a good idea, because Endgame is a very different type of film than Infinity War was. Infinity War, don't get me wrong, I thought it was a really cool film, but it's a war movie. Everybody's fighting Thanos, and it's there's lots going down. This one is a bit different in tone. Clearly, it's a war movie in that everybody, they're getting ready to battle Thanos again and trying to, take him down. But this time travel component makes it more of a love letter to these past 11 years of films that have been done with the Marvel Studios team, and how enjoyable these films have been, and just what a great ride it's been. So I think it comes together in a very satisfying way. Again, that I think it's going to service both the diehard fan and the casual fan. And the movie's long. It's 3 hours, but it has a lot to do. There's a lot of ground to cover. I never got bored. I mean, I was aware of the time, but it's expertly crafted and supremely entertaining, and I really think you're going to have a blast at Avengers Endgame. So Avengers Endgame is rated PG-13 by the Motion Picture Association of America for sequences of sci-fi violence and action and some language. Again, I've got my spoiler-free review out on the blog. There's also some fun posters and things that I link to if you like some of this Marvel Studios art. And I hope you'll go have a blast at Avengers Endgame. Classic Cinema Corner, I'm going to talk about the classic film Gone with the Wind. I mentioned this briefly in last week's podcast, but Gone with the Wind, which is celebrating its 80th anniversary, by the way. It came out in 1939. But it's an important film, of course, in many ways. It's one of the all-time great Hollywood films. In fact, it's synonymous, really, with Hollywood. It is still the all-time box office leader, which is pretty amazing. Adjusted for inflation, it's still the most successful movie ever made, and but it also has an important history with Turner Classic Movies, which is just one of my favorite things movie-wise. So Turner Classic Movies, which is celebrating its 25th anniversary as a network, it started broadcasting on April 14th, 1994. And the first film it showed on the network was Gone with the Wind. And so TCM thought it would be appropriate on the 25th anniversary of the network, so on April 14th, 2019, they showed Gone with the Wind. Also that same day, April 14th this year, it was the final day of the Turner Classic Film Festival, which was going on in Hollywood, and they also showed Gone with the Wind in the TCL Chinese Theater on April 14th, again as a tribute to the 25th anniversary of the TCM network. One of the really cool things that they did on April 14th, so I was at the film festival on April 14th in California. I opted not to see Gone with the Wind because, again, it was 4 hours and I could see two other films at the film festival. But what I really wanted to do was actually watch Gone with the Wind on TV. And that maybe sounds weird to forego an opportunity to see this amazingly epic film on the big screen. But it just seemed like more appropriate to me as how to commemorate the anniversary because that's how the network started. So TCM did a cool thing. Ben Mankiewicz, who's the host, the primetime host of TCM, gave a brief introduction, but really what they did was they showed the original TCM host, Robert Osborne's intro to Gone with the Wind. That was filmed on the opening night that was broadcast originally on April 14th, 1994. They show both the intro and then what they call the outro, which is the commentary. Sorry, the commentary at the end of the film, given by the TCM host. Even though there's no such thing as an outroduction, as Ben Mankiewicz said in his little thing. That's the lingo. So the intro and the outro by Robert Osborne were so cool. It was on that original. It just brought back a flood of memories. The original TCM set that Robert Osborne used. It was built in Atlanta. They filmed these all in Atlanta, but they made it look like it's this really cool New York apartment. And it was just wonderful to see Robert Osborne as I remember him, vibrant and healthy and so personable and so knowledgeable. That was just a real treat. He gave some interesting things. He talked about some interesting things in this original intro to Gone with the Wind. A couple of the things that he had mentioned that this is all just well-known history of the film, but interesting to recap. It's based on the famous novel by Margaret Mitchell, and Hollywood producer David O. Selznick bought the rights shortly after the publication of the book, and the book was wildly popular. in the 1930s. But he bought the rights for the film for $50,000, which back in the day was quite a hefty sum. The film had a somewhat tempestuous production history, not unlike its lead character Scarlett O'Hara, right? who's the definition of tempestuous. But they went through multiple screenwriters on that project, which isn't necessarily unusual. But they went through all these different screenwriters, including David Selznick himself, who contributed to the screenplay. They also went through 3 directors, which I think I had known this at some point, but it was good to be reminded. The original director was George Cukor, who was fired shortly after the production started. Victor Fleming, who was brought in, and he's the one who ultimately gets the credit. But he had to take a bit of a leave of absence due to exhaustion, and they brought in director Sam Wood. So the quote I found is, as of the end of principal photography, Cukor had undertaken 18 days of filming. Fleming did 93 days of filming, and then Sam Wood, who again was just brought in while Victor Fleming took a bit of a break, undertook 24 days of filming. So interesting. Regarding the cast, David O. Selznick always had Clark Gable in mind to play the role of Rhett Butler, but the production team went on a 2-year quest, and I think they made it a very public quest to get the fans interested and involved in what was going on with this film. But they went on a 2-year quest to find the right actress to play Scarlett O'Hara. Of course, they ended up with Vivien Leigh, who is masterful in the role. But the word is that they had auditioned over 1,400 women before Leigh was cast. One other thing that Robert Osborne brought up was that of the 4 principal cast members, so of course Vivien Leigh, Clark Gable, Leslie Howard, who plays Ashley, and then Olivia de Havilland, who plays Melanie, who's Ashley's cousin and his wife. The only one who really didn't know about the ultimate success of the film was Leslie Howard. Leslie Howard sadly died in 1943 during World War II, and he was killed in a plane crash. And he never really. I mean, clearly the film I think was probably a hit from the get-go, but he didn't know how truly what a true hit it was, or record-breaking hit. Interesting also to note that Olivia de Havilland, she's still alive. Everybody else, of course, has passed away, but Olivia Havilland, she's 102 years old and is still alive. She lives in Paris, so that's pretty remarkable. Then I watched the film, and Gone with the Wind, it's one of those films that I think I probably respect more than I enjoy, but I really enjoyed, for the most part, watching it this round. I think mostly I was just taken again with Max Steiner's amazing musical score. The score is so good in the film, so iconic, of course, but like legitimately good and moving and emotional. And then again, really overtaken with the gorgeous and impressive cinematography by Ernest Haller and team. I love those shadow shots. I know that they're a composite shot, and they work a lot of magic when they're back looking at Tara, and also with that really dramatic escape from Atlanta scene with the fire and everything. That's all great, but then also just really every scene is so impressive, so epic, and just it was really a pleasure to watch. I think the thing, and it's probably, I can't be alone in this, it's probably a very universal type of feeling. Scarlett O'Hara drives me nuts as a character. She's so frustrating. Her undying love for Ashley and just how annoying she is about everything is just gets super, super frustrating. But ultimately, I guess it makes it just even all the more satisfying when finally Rhett Butler has had it and gives his famous line and walks out. And, personally, I never feel sorry for her. I hope that doesn't make me sound like some kind of a heartless jerk. But I guess it just makes the story all the more satisfying. So it was actually great to rewatch Gone with the Wind. It was also one of my, as I mentioned, one of my films with my TCM Essentials viewing project. So happy to rewatch it and to learn from it and appreciate it. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast this week. Again, links and more information about the movies discussed in today's podcast can be found in the podcast notes on my blog at moviespastandpresent.com. As always, I hope you will enjoy some good movies this week, whether they be past or present ones. Thanks again.